Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Bannon or Airspeed Prime here. I'm the site super moderator for Avatar The Last Airbender Online.com, and I'm here today to present to you the 7th edition of Airspeed Discusses. And as usual, going to start off with my kind of Avatar news roundup. I mentioned in the last one about this event Nick were doing, where they were kind of showing previews of some of their new shows and new seasons of shows that are already on Nick, and it ends I think later on today because Ireland is like 8 hours ahead of America, so it's pretty much over, and there's been no mention of Avatar, well, Korra specifically. It could be mentioned later, but I really do not think so, because they have not mentioned anything about any of their animated shows. Even I think Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, which is their only other new animated show for 2012, only got like a 2 or 3 second mention, and they seem Nick seemed so unbelievably secretive about Korra, and it really seemed like they don't want to tell anyone about it. Taking down any kind of video of those Korra leaks that go up, they take them down instantly, and they just don't want to seem to release information about the show, and it's getting to the point where I think everyone in the Avatar fandom is getting really frustrated with Nick and Viacom about this, and I think it is a pretty serious kind of issue kind of about this, in that I really think Viacom and Nick should release some information soon, because people are getting some people are getting quite angry about this. Other people don't think it's kind of worth getting angry about. My view kind of falls somewhere in between. I think they need to release more information, because right now the fans are advertising Korra better than the people making the show, and we're completely reliant on leaks for this. So hopefully we'll get some information soon. The second thing to say is that it's I'm recording this on January 2nd. The Promise Part 1 comes out in comic stores and from comic websites on January 25th. February 7th, if you don't have a comic store near you or have ordered it off Amazon or any other places. So just keep that in mind. January 25th is only for comic stores and places like that. I'm super excited for this to come out, simply because it is going to be continuing on the show. Like, at the nearly 4 years after I suppose 3.5 years after the finale of Avatar: The Last Airbender, we're finally going to get a continuation of that story. Now, we had promised leaks, which was half the book, and we pretty much know what happens. But I think the other half of the book are going to add so much to why the characters are doing the things they are in The Promise, from what we know so far. Regarding my channel, again, some people have been posting about the length of some of these Airspeed Discusses videos. I'm aware that 42 minutes, what it was, the last one, is quite a long video. But at the same time, it was a large topic to talk about, and I think it required a lot of discussion. People have asked me to put them in parts. The reason I didn't put it in parts was mainly because it adds so much time onto getting these videos up. It takes a few hours for me to just kind of process and upload one of these videos. If I had to add in kind of editing, cutting it down into 15-minute segments, that is just kind of double or triple, depending on the amount of parts, the amount of time that I have to put into it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of make a conscious effort to not make them as long. My style for discussing Avatar is quite in-depth, so there still will be kind of in-depth discussion, but I'm not going to try and make them not as long as before. And I'm going to kind of put time points in the description of the videos, the intro is from this time to this time, this point in this topic is from this time to this time, I'm gonna put that in the description to help people if they can't watch the whole video at one go in one go. Um, that's all I really have to say about that. I'm now into the topic. This topic's going to be a bit different than usual in that I'm going to have to get behind the camera and you're only going to be pretty much looking at my hands, because this is going to be my discussion on how I felt about the Avatar The Last Airbender toy line and what I think they could do if Korra gets a toy line, what I think is the best way to do it. So I guess it's time to like wave goodbye to me and welcome my hands as I get behind the camera now. See you then. So okay, I'm back here with the my Airspeed discusses on basically Avatar toys, what the first line was like, and then how I think Korra, if it gets toys, should be done. I suppose the first thing to talk about is say that the Avatar toy line, the first one for the original show, was not that big a success. I think it tells the whole story where if you try and find them now, they're not readily available, and they kind of are worth a lot. That's not because they are great toys, it's just because the retailers obviously didn't have that much faith in them doing that well, and they didn't do especially well. The toys themselves, I don't actually have any of the figures. I have two of the kind of vehicle class figures, but I'm just going to put a picture in now of one of the toys and discuss that now. So this is the picture of the Aang figure from the this is the picture of the Aang figure from the Avatar Last Airbender line. And as you can see, they're kind of 6-inch figures, so like 15cm figures. Like 6 to 5 inches depending on the kind of character height from the show, if they're an adult or a kid. And you can see that the joints are extremely visible, and I think a lot of this is has to go down to the fact that Nick, when they really thought that this show was going to be completely aimed at kids, they were not expecting the amount of kind of older kind of teenage fans to like the show, and so the toy line was kind of completely aimed at kids almost, meaning that yes, they look like they have decent articulation, the sculpts look okay, but they're not kind of, they should, Avatar is at the stage where it kind of needs a kind of collector's sort of a line of figures, and I'm gonna for it now talk about the Avatar figures that I do have. So first off is the Roku's Spirit Dragon. So this is a Fang kind of Spirit World style, because we know that kind of his actual color is the red. This is kind of, thinking about it real, it's actually more like Sozin's dragon, who is unnamed. And like, as you can see here, it's sorry about my camera work here. As you can see here, it's it looks quite good actually. The sculpt is decent. The quality of the plastic is okay. The problem comes in with the articulation. Pretty much it's only the wings, you know, you can twist them, you can move them up and down, but it's quite stiff when you kind of try and move them up and down. See, you can kind of make it more streamlined by kind of tucking the wings in. But then the only other articulation is the legs move in and out, which is absolutely useless, because the only pose you can pretty much put them in is standing flat, because you can't make him stand up because of the weight of the figure. This figure is completely aimed at the kind of more kid collectors rather than like kind of more adult collectors, because it's kind of gimmick kind of ruins a lot of it, because in the mouth there is a firing missile. It's got this kind of spring-loaded jaw. Again, it looks decent, but the problem is, like, I would have preferred it to be much more articulated. Like, they kind of have the joints cut out for kind of a claw swivel here, but it's not, and it kind of like tricks you in that way. So The sculpt itself is good, the paint is decent, but it's not really great. I have another Avatar figure, and that is the Fire Nation Kimono Rhino. Now this is a figure that is kind of, that one is the more articulated figure. This one is kind of almost completely ruined as a kind of action figure by a gimmick. Rather than it being part of, like, they're saying this is an animal, it is a figure. They kind of made it a vehicle where it's full of gimmicks. And this one is specifically like the worst offender, because if all the articulation pretty much is taken out by the two gimmicks. The first one is, as you can see, the button here activates the this kind of horn attack gimmick, and that kind of takes up all the space from here to here inside the figure for any kind of possible kind of waist kind of articulation where it can move, kind of slither side to side. And then these kind of cannons, as you can see, I just lost the ball there. You can see it, but I'll have to get that later. It also takes up most of the articulation for, like, the legs here, which don't have any articulation. Despite, as you can see here, having the kind of cut to put a swivel in, it doesn't actually move. Same with the tail. And obviously it works with the other side too. It's quite accurate still as a kind of statue piece. It's exactly like they first appear in the kind of Siege of the North episodes, but these catapults are actually a bit smaller. You can see some of the details on it, that it's good, but overall they're not kind of great figures. Sorry about that. Now, I think that's enough of talking about the kind of previous line. It wasn't great, and I'm going to now talk about what I think they should do. Should they do Korra figures and kind of bring back Avatar into the kind of toy market? Because I think the key thing about this is that the first show was aimed at, like, kids between, like, 8 and 12, and even that target audience now has grown up by 6 going on 7 years. So and I know a lot of people, when they're a real fan of a show, they like to have a kind of the characters from the show immortalized in plastic, just to kind of have something to always keep. And Avatar especially, I think that the characters are so good, and the animation models are so kind of characterful, that having great representations of the characters would be absolutely amazing. Now, I suppose the best thing to talk about here is size classes of figures. I'm sure many of you are aware of stuff like Star Wars figures. As you can see here, I don't really have that many. I just got this guy because he was a cool character in Star Wars: The Clone Wars, the animated show. Now, this is a kind of 4-inch or 10-centimeter tall figure. So this is the small kind of type of figures that you see around the place, like Marvel Universe figures and stuff like that. Now, as you can see, the sculpt is quite good. You know, this is all Star Wars kind of fans have, really, because there is no larger scale figure. And you know, just looking at this, you think, like, oh, what's the problem? It looks perfect. It's got the lightsaber, the head sculpt is great, but you know, it's got good arm articulation, it's got waist articulation, head, but the legs is where it all comes apart. See, you lift up the kind of Jedi robes, and you see it's got this is just the worst type of leg articulation you can get here. The kind of so-called quote-unquote T crotch, where all you can do is move the legs forward and back, and then the knees are really bad. That's the amount of knee bend you can get. No ankle articulation, which is probably, ankles make a toy so much better in terms of being able to pose it. And I suppose the best way to compare this is that I think Korra, should it get action figures, should get figures that size for the kind of kids. They're cheaper figures, but then a lot of the fans are older and like a good figure, and would prefer a larger figure, like say a 6-inch figure like this. This is the Thundercats. In my opinion, is the way Avatar should do its toys should it come out. Thundercats is a fantasy show like Avatar. It's a story-driven show. It's based on the 1980s cartoon. This is the new version, and they have the 4-inch figures like that size, 10 centimeters, and then we've got the 6-inch figures this size for the kind of collectors. They're actually called kind of collectors figures, and as you can see, compared to the animation model, this is like pretty much spot on, and it's just this is a really good figure because it's got loads of articulation, and also as a collector's figure you get accessories with it rather than a gimmick. And you see, he's got the claw shield here, but you can also kind of take off that claw shield and put on a regular hand, and that is kind of the definition of what like a collector's grade figure is, where like if you see it has a kind of replaceable hands, you know it's a kind of collector's grade figure. And then you also have, because in the show this claw shield actually stores this sword in this dagger form. You can even store the dagger here and attach it on here, so you can have this here and then replace this with a normal hand, or you can even put the dagger in the big claw shield and then kind of have it like he's ready to take the sword out, and you get the sword. This one has so much more articulation than this size of figure, and I don't have any of the smaller Thundercats figures, but I think the articulation is sort of the same as this. Very lack of kind of important joints. Now I'll just move the sword to demonstrate some of this. It's got good head articulation, up, down, left, right. The arms are good, and what really sets this figure apart is that it's got stuff like this shoulder kind of pauldron is removable. The kind of skirt pieces here, the kind of leg armor, is kind of bendy, so you can actually move the legs up good, unlike this figure where that's really kind of hard bendy plastic. But you know, it's got great shoulders, bicep swivel. It's got the kind of wrist swivel built in by the kind of way the hand is removable. Double jointed elbows, waist swivel, and then it's even got this kind of a side to side motion in the chest, which is amazing. The legs are just the same. They can go out, unlike this figure, this size. They can go up. Double jointed knees. It's got ankle articulation. The only joint missing really is probably a toe joint for like doing kind of crouch down poses and being able to bend that. But that is kind of minor. The problem with these figures, which I think they have fixed actually for later waves of these, is that as you can see here, the joint, the way the joint is held together is with a black kind of peg rather than the same color plastic here. I think they've fixed that for later kind of figures of this size class. Other than that, it's just that the kind of, you can see the markings, copyright markings, batch number, and then the screws are kind of highly visible. And then some lack of paint just on the back, but you know, you can just do black Sharpie to put in the kind of a strap along there, and it's not too bad. But it's just extremely posable. Just really great figure. You can just so easily put it in a great pose. Unlike this guy, who, that is the only stance he can do. And I think that is the biggest kind of thing to say about these figures. In that I think Korra should have this size class for kind of kids who don't have much money, but they get a good representation of the figure, of the character in plastic form. And then you have this kind of size class of figure to really give the kind of collectors, the hardcore fans, a great figure to pose. Put the character in the poses, have the accessories from the show, and kind of do that rather than the kind of more kind of play orientated smaller figures. So that is great. And just to show off some of the stuff, this is Star Wars figures are made by Hasbro. Thundercats figures are made by Bandai. The original Avatar figures were made by Mattel, and the reason I don't have any Mattel figures here is because, honestly, I don't think they're... I've never really seen a Mattel figure that I've wanted to get, and I'm a decent kind of... I'm not a big toy collector, I just kind of collect the kind of few that I think are really good, mainly based off TV shows. Like, here's a kind of a Hasbro 6-inch figure. This is a Transformer now, so, you know, there's two modes, but I think the key one here is the robot mode, because that is the kind of human-esque figure. You know, they're similarly sized, both from animated shows. Thundercats, Transformers animated, and you know, this is animated Rodimus Minor, I think he is, or he just becomes a prime in the show. And you see, I think Hasbro do it quite well in that they make the figure amazing. This guy's got tons of articulation for having two modes, a car mode and this. He's got elbows, wrist, ankle, good knee joints, and then he's got his like trademark kind of laser bow from the show. It has the missile firing gimmick to appeal to the kids as well, but you can just take them out and it looks kind of just as good. So there you have that. Hasbro can do kind of both size classes. I wish kind of Hasbro would do kind of Star Wars figures kind of at this kind of sort of scale. And I think with Avatar they can do this really well in that. My idea for the line would be, you know, you do a Korra wave to start out. Big thing against Mattel was that they did not do female figures, and then they chose to repaint the male figures that they did multiple times. Like Avatar Roku did not need two figures. Sokka did not need that many, like the 3 or 4 figures he got. We needed a Katara, we needed a Toph, we needed an Azula. And I think what they should do really with these is bring out, you know, make a 4-inch line, make a 6-inch line, and make the 6-inch line the collector's line, and within that line have a Avatar The Last Airbender wave. And it's quite simple. All you have to do is do your main characters. You have an Aang, have a Katara, have a Sokka, have a Toph, have a Zuko, have an Azula, maybe an Ozai, and maybe a Suki. And I don't think I forgot any of the main characters. I think they're the kind of key ones that you should get. You know, you kind of choose your kind of Aang design. My choice would be his kind of season 3 look, the kind of half Air Nomad, half Fire Nation kind of look. You know, go for season 3 Katara, go for the Sokka in his awesome Water Tribe armor at the end, go for Toph and her kind of armor at the end, and make them articulated. Give them their... Sokka will be the main one to have kind of accessories with his weapons. Aang obviously will have his staff, but for characters like Toph, who really... she doesn't use much... she doesn't really use any weapons or accessories. You could give her stuff like a kind of just kind of have a display kind of stand thing with Earth kind of shooting out, just for a nice kind of display piece. And obviously the key thing again is that they do female figures. If a Korra line comes out and there was no Korra figure, that would just be absolutely stupid on any toy maker's behalf. I guess the last thing to say is what company do I think Avatar should have its toys done by? I don't want Mattel to do them. Because I don't think that the Avatar Last Airbender toy line was that great. I would prefer Hasbro or Bandai to do it. Really liking Hasbro, just like this is the only Thundercats figure I've got on this 6-inch line. But I think most of them are like this, and that much articulation, really good. And I think if Bandai were to do them, and we got the kind of same level of articulation here, I can just perfectly see a core figure at this scale, this type of figure, and it would be awesome. So my vote goes to Bandai, but I think Hasbro could also do a good job. But the problem with Hasbro is that I think they really like to do their figures at this scale rather than this scale. And then a word also has to be said about kind of more high-end toys, not by major manufacturers. If you know anything about like Transformers or kind of any of the Disney kind of more high-end stuff done by the kind of Japanese toy company Revoltech, who make really detailed sculpts, even more so than this, which is excellent in itself. They make them extremely detailed, loads more articulation with these their kind of patented Revoltech joints, and they have loads of brands on their thing. They have stuff like Professor Layton, they have loads of Disney movies, I think they have a really good Jack Sparrow there, and loads of other kind of anime shows as well. So I think Avatar could get one or two of those, even just like an Aang and a Korra would be great to have a kind of really, really super high-end, high-quality toy. I suppose a lot of this will come down to how big a toy fans are Avatar fans. And I think being an Avatar fan means that you like Avatar merchandise, and I think stuff like this is appealing. Like when I saw this in a shop, this Roku's Dragon and Kimono Rhino, it was about it was a few months, only 2 or 3 months ago actually, when I got it. I actually had a little freak out moment when I saw this, because I never expected to see these in the shops again. It was kind of like a discount store, so I got it for like €15, and I had a little freak out moment because, you know, this is a good looking Roku's Dragon. It's just the lack of posability is not great. It's a decent looking statue with posable wings that fires a missile, but it could be so much better. So that has been this video. Please respond in the comments or as a video reply what your idea is for an Avatar kind of toy line and Avatar merchandise for Korra. I think this is a big question to ask. Are you, as an Avatar fan, are you kind of interested in getting toys for the show? Personally, I am, because I would just love to have the kind of main characters of the show in plastic form, just to kind of recreate those moments in the show. Just kind of great art, great sculpts, great articulation, stuff like that. So that's pretty much this video, and I suppose the last thing to say is, do I think Korra will actually get merchandise? When it was first 12 episodes, no, not really. I didn't think so, not at all. But now that it's up to 26 episodes, and the fact that of any show on Nick, I think Avatar has the kind of most passionate fans. It is the only show on Nick that I would say has the sort of following that Avatar has the only sort of that sort of following where figures would sell well to kids and collectors alike. It's that sort of show, like Thundercats, because Nick is a kind of unusual show to be on Avatar. Like Thundercats is on Cartoon Network, Star Wars: The Clone Wars, Cartoon Network. Hasbro has Transformers on its own channel, the Hub now, and so Nick don't really have a show like that is kind of fantasy, adventure, action show. So in that way, Avatar could be kind of a big thing for Nick in terms of merchandising. As I mentioned multiple times in this video, I think Avatar should get 4-inch and 6-inch figures, as well as kind of maybe some Lego stuff, and of course DVDs. Obviously, DVDs and Blu-ray is very important. And that is it. So please video response or comment, and again, this video is kind of what went on quite long again, but I think there's a lot more kind of going on here, kind of me showcasing some of the toys from around the kind of toy market, and comparing them to what I think Avatar toys could be like. I think it's a lot more kind of interesting than just me talking, looking at me talking.